So I'm ready to piece my strips together, and one quick tip is to use a scrap charger. That's just a piece of fabric folded in half and run that through your machine, and that's gonna lift your foot up ever so slightly. So it's just easier to slip your next two pieces right underneath the foot. I'm also using a narrow stitch length. It's 1.6 millimeters. And I do that so my stitches are really nice and tight together, and then I can press the seam open. And that will make the quilt easier to quilt. I can actually stitch right in the ditch. I can, it's a lot flatter. My foot won't hit, that big bulky seam allowance of, multiple layers together and get hung up. So that's why I like to press my seams open. And I'm able to do that because I dial my stitch length down to 1.6. So I'm just buzzing through this, and notice that I keep this really soft up here. I just align the edges, but I am not being aggressive with this. I don't stretch, I don't pull, I don't pin, because I really want these fabrics to just gently come together as they feed underneath the foot. All that needs to happen is the edges just need to be aligned. That's it. When you start getting really aggressive and stretching and tugging and pinning and stuff, trying to get everything to match up and be exactly the right length or whatever, you can get distortion in strips like these very, very easily. And, they're pre-cuts. They're not going to be cut exactly right anyway. So it is one of those things where that tip really can help just minimize the amount of distortion you could get in your quilt. So I'm going to just buzz through this real quick, and then we'll start cutting with our Basix template. So I've taken my strip and cut it in half, and this way I'll know what shape I'm cutting, and then I make sure that I'm doing the mirror image of that shape. So I'm going to set this here, and I'm going to cut this way with Basix up so I can read the word. And I'm just going to press, and I'm putting a lot of pressure on this because I don't have any, sticky template stuff, anything to kind of hold it in place. So I want to make sure that it doesn't shift. I can kind of feel it wanting to wiggle on me. Next time I will probably put something on it to stop it from shifting. That time I just cut straight across, and that worked out really well. You're going to end up with some waste, it looks like, and I might try piecing all that stuff together and just see what happens. Okay, so I've got two mirror images, and then they come together. Oh, that looks so nice. So I could piece, a lot of different blocks with that. Let me cut out a few more pieces, then I'll start playing with some arrangements. So you're going to end up with 6 squares per strip. That's how many I was able to cut. And I was able to cut, basically 3 of each shape. So I cut and then did the symmetry of that. And so I've just been sitting here playing with the different arrangements I can come up with. And I see I can make a diamond and an X. And I kind of like this funky, just turning 2 corners one way, and you'll end up with something like that. And I think that would work off of, like if you had another block next to it that was mirror image, then it would look something like that. I think that's kind of cool. It would make diagonals across your quilt. I think there's just so many creative things that you can do with this template, especially because it's not, it's always going to change depending on what your starting arrangement with your strips are. You could do a 9 patch, you could do, just the 3 strips. And I think there's just so many different arrangements and creative things that you could do here. And I'm just enjoying the process of playing around with these and just seeing what I can do. And then of course it's magnified by the fact that the symmetry of it. Whenever you start stacking these with other shapes, then you're going to end up with something that much more interesting. My problem is I keep forgetting which ones are identical. I think all 3, these 3 are identical and these 3 are identical. And so I keep getting kind of mixed up with that. So you could do some really funky blocks, but because you can't cut 4 from 1/2 of the strip, you're going to have some limitation with your arrangement. And I think always working in sets of 2 is a really good idea, because then at least you can always create that nice symmetry. So 1/2 and 1/2 will always look the same. And that'll be kind of cool. I really like this diamond shape. I was playing with this quite a bit, and I think that's what I'm going to focus on. I'm going to do something with this diamond, although I'm going to be using so many different colors. I don't know. I'm just really flexible with this, and I'm going to have lots of fun just prepping up these pieces and mixing them with the black, and then I'll show you what I create when I'm done. So here is the arrangement that I have set up all of my blocks, and I ended up cutting 8 sets. So I've got the colors of the rainbow plus an extra light blue and the pink, and that is going to create this, it's a 12-inch by 48-inch table runner. So from here, all I need to do is simply piece the blocks together, and how I do it is I flip over the 2 blocks that I'm going to piece together, and then I insert my pen like this, so it is perpendicular to the seam I'm going to sew, so that when I start stitching, it's going to be from here running straight down like that. And that, whatever way you pen, however you like to do it, just make sure that it's consistent, and so that you do it to every piece and you don't get confused, because especially with this quilt, if you started to piece and got to mixed up the wrong way, well, you could end up with something more like that, or like that, not what you're going for here. So I had a lot of fun arranging this. Now I'm just gonna put it all together and finish it up. So this is my finished table runner. I am so delighted with this project. I was able to piece it up basically just in one day. And the cutting went really, really quick, just cutting out with that Basix ruler and then piecing everything together. I was a little skeptical. I was thinking it was going to be more challenging because you end up cutting and piecing on the bias, off grain. But as long as you're careful and gentle with the pieces, just don't be aggressive with them, everything pieced together really quickly and very beautifully. So I think the Basix ruler is going to be great for doing some really unique style quilts without having to do paper piecing or templates or anything complicated. Until next time, let's go quilt.